Never would I have thought I would analyse a Berlin Endgame in one of my videos. This game took place in the finals of the AirThings Masters between Levon Aronian and Teimour Radjabov. Let's introduce the players. Levon Aronian is Armenian number 1 with a rapid rating of 2778, making him world number 8. He has won top tournaments such as the FIDE World Cup, he's played in the Candidates, and he's won the Sinkfield Cup. He is 38 years old. Teimour Radjabov is the top Azerbaijan player with a rapid rating of 2758, making him world number 14. I'm giving rapid ratings because the AirThings Masters is a rapid and blitz tournament. Famously, he refused to take part in the Candidates tournament in March 2020 due to the pandemic, and shortly afterwards the tournament has been postponed. The similarity between Levon and Teimour is they have both taken part in the Candidates and they have both won the World Cup. He is 33 years old. There will be a quiz at the end. There will be bonus variations I will discuss. So stick around. Here is the final table of the matchup between Aronian and Radjabov. Teimour ended up winning the AirThings Masters. I never thought I would be discussing a Berlin game, but this endgame was very interesting. Aronian has white, Radjabov has black. The game began e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, and knight f6. Castle, knight takes e4, d4 played. Black needs to get the knight out of the e file, so he plays knight d6. The knight has gone to f6, has taken a pawn on e4, now it retreats to d6, attacking the bishop on b5. Take, and taking on e5, knight to f5. It is move 7, and 4 out of the 7 moves have been with this knight. The Berlin Endgame begins here. The queens come off. What does black have that white doesn't? The 2 bishops. There's also an imbalance in pawn structure. Doubled c pawns here. 4 against 3, and same thing here. 4 against 3 for white. h3, planning to go g4, get some space, and attacking the knight on f5. Bishop d7. Where's this king going to go? To c8 or to e8? Rook d1 and king c8. In the quiz at the end, I'm going to mention a bonus variation here on the game Carlsen Anand, a very famous game back in 2014 in the World Championship match. The reason I will talk about this game is because the structure of the pawns and the pieces is very similar. So stick around until the end. Rook d1, Radjabov goes king c8. This is the ambitious way to play. You put your king on the queen side. You put your king to the right. Why is this so ambitious? White gets space very quickly. g4. The knight has to retreat. Knight g5. The bishop has to retreat. Look at all of black's pieces. They're all on the back rank. How do you convince someone to play like this as black? Well, maybe it's okay to play like this because the queens are off the board. f4, white gets a giant cluster of pawns, but is this a strength or a weakness? We're going to see. It is move 13, this is a critical point. Black has 3 pawn moves. c5 as played by Radjabov, h6 or h5. Now, moving the h-pawn, I'm going to cover in the quiz at the end. c5, knight c3, b6. f5, knight c6. The point of moving this pawn is to control d4, b4, but the knight now has a chance to get in the game. Bishop to f4, knight d4, and king f2. I was wondering why Levon didn't just play rook c1. Well, maybe he wanted to play with the initiative. Rook c1 gives black a chance to kick this knight away. If the knight moves, then the bishop can come in the game. And these 2 minor pieces are just so powerful. The king might come closer. King b7, and then the game goes on. Maybe the rook can come into the game to d8 to e8. Black can break with h5, and at the moment, we're going to keep these 2 pieces on the back. King f2. Critical moment in the game, Levon Aronian sacrifices the pawn. But firstly, Teimour kicks the knight away. Knight takes c2, attacking the rook, and now knight b4. Check out all these blue arrows. It is move 19, and this knight has made most of the moves in this game. Check out this entire journey. So I'm going to try and record all this. Knight began here. To f6 to e4, it took the pawn, then it went to d6 because it attacked the bishop. Then the pawn was here, it attacked the knight, so it had to go here. Queens came off, then this knight was attacked by this pawn, so the knight retreated. Then this pawn move was played, so the knight came to c6, and then from c6 it went to the central square d4. Levon sacrificed the pawn on c2, so Radjabov took it. The rook came to c1, attacking the knight, and here we are. So many moves made by just this piece. This knight is just dancing around. Knight b4, a3 kicking it away, so knight to c6. Check out the pawn structure on the right. The queen side, we have 4 against 2. If you had 4 against 2 in a football match, you'd be pretty confident you would beat the goalkeeper. And just for fun, Chess24 actually have a football pitch. They have a chess football pitch. 4 against 2, I'd be pretty confident in scoring against a keeper. Football over, back to chess. Knight d5, knight e7. Another knight move, but white's knight is so dangerous, time to kick it away. Knight e3, knight c6. f6 was played in the game, which looks okay because you're gaining space, but this move turns out to be a blunder strategically. I don't mean it loses any material, but this square now belongs to black. Another way for Levon to continue was to gain space on the king side. Maybe play a move like h4. King b7, king g3, just slowly building. Maybe go g5 next. Don't play f6 because that is a committal move. However, Levon went f6 straight away. Bishop d7. Radjabov does not need a second invitation. He's going to put his bishop on that wonderful square e6. b4. Sacrificing a pawn. Radjabov has none of it. He goes g5. Locking up the king side for now. Bishop moves and bishop e6. Here we have it. One thing I've learned from analysing this game is that black is a very patient boxer. He's just waiting his turn, ready to punch. He's just waiting and waiting, ready to seize his moment. It is move 25 at the moment. You can see these two pieces haven't moved, but that's okay because black now has this wonderful square for the bishop, this knight, and like I've said already, black has 4 against 2. Black is doing well. Rook d3, king b7, rook c3. White is putting pressure on the c-file, but Teimour just leaves it. You don't need to touch this pawn. Black is going to do something else. Gets the rook in the game first. Knight f5 and a5, forcing a decision on this structure. Remember this structure because I'm going to talk about it in the quiz at the end. This layout was seen in the game Carlsen Anand in the World Championship match back in 2014. Forcing decision with a5. White pushes, knight a7 and a4. Locking it up for now. c6, just breaking it up straight away. Take and knight back in the game. Once again, if it's 3 against 1, I'd be pretty confident in beating the keeper. Here we have it once again, the football pitch. 3 against 1. I'm confident I will be queening one of these pawns in the future. Forget the football, back to chess. King e2, knight b4, rook d1. Turns out black's rook is better than white's. The rooks are doing nothing on this file. Hitting a pawn that is defended enough. Rook d1 played. Take, take, knight d5, rook a3, c4. It is move 35. Once again, I've been mentioning this throughout the game. The rook and bishop do not need to move in this fascinating Berlin Endgame. You are just this patient boxer, ready to seize your chance. What has Radjabov done throughout this game? He has moved his pieces and pawns on the queen side. It is move 35, c4 played, getting this bishop in the game. This bishop is so strong, Levon chooses to block with knight d6 check. Get rid of it, take, take, rook d8. Finally, this rook is now in the game, black is winning. Let's see the rest. Bishop e5, knight b4, bishop back, knight d3. This guy on d3, he is just the hero of this game. He is just dancing the knight away. Knight d4, bishop back, king d2, rook e8, seizing the open file. Knight c2 and knight c5. What a surprise, another knight move, and this knight has 2 options. Coming to e4 to give a check to take the bishop. Also this bishop on d7 and the knight work well together to attack the pawn on a4. Rook e3 offering a trade. No trade at the moment by Teimour, knight e4 check first. King out the way, take, and a good, simple double attack, rook e6. Rook c3, take. Black has 5 pawns, white has 3 pawns, black is completely winning. King b2, rook d3, in this position, white resigned. There's no good way to defend this pawn, unless you offer a rook trade, but then black is still winning. Rook d4, let's just play on a few more moves. Take, and there are 2 options here. You can just take the pawn, or you can retain more control. Put the king on c7, then the king can go to e5, and then the bishop is still attacking the pawn on a4. You can take it, but I just want to show you what happens if you bring your king towards the center. King c7, king d6, king e5, now you can grab it. Because if knight f5, this is why I wanted to bring the king in the center, because black had this option. You can just bring the bishop back. Actually here I think you can play h5, but the point is bishop d7 is a good one. If the knight goes pawn grabbing, bishop e6, full control, everything guarded. These 2 are runners. These 2 can be future queens. In the game, Aronian played rook d1, but if knight c3 is played, we are following a very famous game, Carlsen Anand, in the World Championship match back in 2014. Knight reroutes a bit differently, and now we get to the main point of this. Knight f6 is played. I remember this game because of the following brilliant move for black. I'm really glad I included this bonus variation in this video. Black has this brilliant move beginning with b5. Absolutely incredible. If you take with this pawn, which looks fine because the knights still protect each other along with the rook, you break up the structure with c6. Take, the king now attacks this knight along with the bishop and the rook. Also rook b8, this pawn can drop. This knight is under attack, you move it somewhere and then the bishop can come in. If you play a takes b5, a4, this rook now has a chance to get in on the game. Take, rook takes a4, black is making serious progress. This pawn is under attack, the rook can go here. All for the cost of a pawn, and also black can aim for this break, so then the king can come in as well. Next bonus variation is if black plays h6 first. Here, this game is between Adams from the white side now against Luke McShane. The point is you kick the knight away, and then you play f5 instead. Different kind of pawn break. King up, bishop there, king up, take, and h5. What a really cool way for Luke McShane to break up this pawn structure. You play h6, kick that knight away, because it was so dangerous on g5, then you can chip away at the structure. Take, so the rook gets in the game, and black is in charge of all these light squares. A beautiful transformation in favor of black. Check, bishop in, knight in, check, rook h1, white is just so tied down. Bishop f5, king f2, and the pawn drops. Nice tactic here. If rook takes, then rook h2 check. You actually pick up the rook. Really cool tactic, really cool way for Luke to win a pawn. In the game, Levon played f6, but what was a way for white to maintain the pressure? Can you name the next 3 moves for white? h4. Then the king can come closer, and then g5 just to make some progress on the king side. Black will get out the way, maybe put the rook here, trying to swap off a pair of rooks. Maybe this can come out, maybe this can come out. But as you know, one of the key lessons from this game is just to not move this bishop or rook, just to keep waiting and waiting, become a patient boxer, see what white does. Which is exactly what Radjabov did in the game, because after f6, put the bishop here, and then he put the bishop on e6. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. If you enjoyed this video, why not give it a like and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Make sure you hit that bell, then YouTube will let you know when I release a new video. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.